Imagine a creature that has 3 hearts, pumping blue blood through the vessels. Although it has an almost amorphous body resembling a bag of water, it can easily open a bottle, even a baby-proofed one. It can feel light and even taste with its skin. It has no ears, but it hears well, even in the infrarange. It can constantly change color and texture, becoming indistinguishable from the environment, even though it doesn't identify colors at all and sees the world in black and white. It's venomous and can be hostile, but at the same time, it's curious and even playful. On top of that, it's highly intelligent and can solve non-trivial problems. In addition to the main brain, it has 8 smaller brains in different parts of the body. And these additional brains make their own decisions. Who is this monster? Does it come from Earth? Yes, you got that right. It's an octopus. And of course, it comes from our planet. Although, some scientists entertain another idea. But first things first. The mystery of the octopus. We are certainly used to modern octopuses or octopi. Everyone has known these creatures since childhood, and this somewhat reduces our perceptual acuity. Seeing these shots, many feel surprised, but hardly anyone feels excitement or delight, even though the metamorphoses of the X-Men superheroes aren't that different. But for some reason, we perceive what we see in movies as something extraordinary, and yet we can't recognize that similar things that happen in nature can be no less extraordinary. Isn't it time to revisit how we see these creatures? Moreover, octopi are much more interesting than many people think. Octopi belong to the class of cephalopods, which is very ancient and was formed about 530 million years ago. At that time, there was hardly anything resembling fish, not to mention reptiles or mammals. The early ancestor of the octopus was quite small, had a protective shell, and crawled along the ocean floor. Unfortunately, having a protective shell makes species evolve very slowly. For example, turtles have stayed virtually unchanged for millions of years. But about 140 million years ago, something went wrong, and these creatures evolved to be shellless. With a soft and defenseless body and no camouflage, clumsy octopus ancestors had very slim chances of survival. This was the moment of truth. Either cephalopods became easy prey for predators and completely die out, or start developing faster and more creatively. As you can see, the cephalopods decided to fight for life and radically rebuilt their anatomy. And what they did turned out to be incredibly efficient and completely outside the box. Firstly, the octopi turned their soft and almost amorphous body into a strength, not a weakness. Since the octopus has almost no firm parts except for the beak, it can crawl into any hole, if it's at least a millimeter wider than its eyeball or beak. This allows the octopus to hide in very narrow crevices, which is a powerful evolutionary advantage for escaping large predators, such as sharks or dolphins. Second, octopi have evolved an even smarter way of staying unnoticed. In fact, they're one of the best animals on the planet to disguise themselves. Notice how quickly and unexpectedly it changes color. And not only color, but also texture, that is, patterns. And not only texture, but also their body surface configuration. Changes occur instantly or in stages as the octopus merges with the environment. The animal instantly becomes indistinguishable from a group of algae, coral, sand, stone, or anything else. We've seen this only in sci-fi movies, but at the same time, here it is. What is this guy doing? Does it follow any laws of nature at all? And how is this even possible? Yes, it's really hard to understand. Cephalopod camouflage relies on a system of extremely complex tissues. Chromatophores are scattered throughout the octopus's skin. These are tiny sacs filled with pigment. They densely cover the skin like freckles. The chromatophores can have black, red, or yellow pigment. The sacs are surrounded by radial muscles that can stretch the container, thereby revealing the pigment color. Depending on which sets of chromatophores the octopus opens or closes, it can create stripes, spots, and design entire patterns, instantly becoming indistinguishable from nearby objects or the background. You might think, black, red, and yellow. But what about other colors? For this, the octopus uses a whole different mechanism, which is even cooler. There is a whole layer of highly unusual thin cells that grow in a kind of stacks in the octopus's transparent skin. These are iridophores, which are located directly below the chromatophore layer. And unlike chromatophores, they don't contain pigment, but rather special proteins called reflectins. Their unique property is being able to reflect only certain light wavelengths. It is thanks to iridophores that the octopus can turn into unreal shades of metallic blue and green. But that's not all. Under the iridophore layer, there's another layer with other natural reflectors called leucophores. They reflect the entire spectrum, thereby creating a white color. By combining reflections from iridophores and leucophores with the correct pattern of chromatophores, an octopus can quite convincingly recreate its surroundings. But even that's not all of it. The octopus's camouflage arsenal has a real combo that virtually allows it to disappear from sight altogether. Its skin has another structure, a network of papillae that can change the skin texture, creating rising and falling ridges and bumps. So the octopus imitates not only the color and pattern of the surroundings, but even the surface configuration. Do you spot an octopus here? I don't see it either. Nobody does. And yet, it's in front of us. With all these tools, the soft-bodied, shell-less octopus has been fooling oceanic predators for millions of years. But octopi rely on more than just their camouflage to survive. The way they manage their body is an even more effective survival tool. When octopi travel across the sea floor, they have to constantly register the background to change their camouflage accordingly. They are lightning fast at making decisions. Observations have shown that an octopus can change its camouflage 177 times an hour. And the octopus's camouflage reaction speed is up to 200 milliseconds, which is faster than that of any other animal. To put this in perspective, it takes about 20 seconds for a chameleon to completely change its color. Considering how fast the octopus reacts to its surroundings, and the accuracy of reproducing colors, patterns, and shapes, one naturally comes to wonder whether this guy has amazing eyesight. How does it manage to see so well and distinguish colors so accurately with a pair of regular eyes? And here comes an even bigger surprise. The octopus generally can't distinguish colors with its eyes at all. It's completely colorblind. Oh my God, what? How is this possible? How can it reproduce the colors that it can't even accurately see? Just recently, scientists started to research this question. Detailed studies conducted in 2015 showed some convincing results. Researchers discovered that octopus skin is sensitive to light due to photoreceptor genes in the skin. Even when the skin is separated from the body, it can react to light and change the shape of chromatophores. Scientists have realized that an octopus can see not only with its eyes, but also with its skin. One can only wonder how the sense of sight is processed by the octopus's brain and consciousness. Hold on, did I just say octopus consciousness? Did I say it out loud? Well, I'll have to explain what I mean. Moreover, this is perhaps the most amazing thing about octopuses, even cooler than their camouflaging talents. But first, let's start with their nervous system. We take for granted our centralized hierarchical nervous system. However, the octopus convincingly proves that everything can be completely different. Imagine that in addition to the contents of the skull, each of your arms and legs has a brain of its own. And these 4 brains are totally independent of the central nervous system and can make their own decisions. Feet go wherever they please. Hands grab whatever they want. For real, they literally do whatever they please. Can you imagine what it is like to think with 5 brains? How will the most diverse impulses be managed within such a complex physiological structure? What part will be responsible for your consciousness? Maybe there are 5 personalities living in such an organism at once. It makes for a good Hollywood movie, but the reality is much more thrilling than any movie. We somehow can get used to the fact that an octopus has 3 hearts. There's one major heart that pumps blood throughout the whole body. The other 2 are specialized to pump blood only through the gills. But how do you like the fact that each of its tentacles also has a separate mini-brain? And this is no exaggeration. These nerve clusters can make decisions completely independently. If you cut off the poor fellow's tentacle, it will continue to react to the environment, run away from threats, and try to grab potential prey. The octopus's nervous system isn't concentrated in the brain, which serves as a centralized organ of analysis and control. Their skeletonless body can bend anywhere and in any direction. Such flexibility calls for equally complex and flexible control. In the process of evolution, octopuses have learned to delegate authority by literally outsourcing local problems to their own limbs. For example, when a person opens a jar, their brain focuses on what the sense organs feel and gives appropriate signals to the hand muscles. Squeeze the jar with a certain force, make some movement, take a stable position, and many more fine motor commands. All these instructions come from the center. But it's enough for the octopus to trigger the desired behavioral response by saying, "Tentacle number 5, open the jar. It's not my problem how you do it. I'll be here waiting." Thinking limbs independently manage complex manipulations and transformations, receiving only general instructions from the central part. By the way, there's every reason to believe that the octopus changes the surface pattern consciously, and not just reflexively or adaptively. This might seem like total science fiction, I know. But there is direct evidence that the cephalopod can mimic dozens of both living and non-living objects that make up its ecological habitat. For example, when observing an octopus in its natural environment, people sometimes confuse it with a stingray, a echinoderm brittle, and even a jellyfish. The octopus often does this without actually needing camouflage, but just for fun. This amazing nervous system structure raises a whole set of other questions. What is it like to be a creature with 9 brains? What could such a personality be like? And what would octopi evolve into in another 100 or 2 million years? If a furless 2-legged monkey doesn't completely ruin this planet in all this time? Will it have some absolutely real consciousness? Even based on very little data available, we can confidently assert octopus's outstanding mental abilities. For example, it's known for certain that octopi easily recognize human faces. Previously, it was believed that only primates, dolphins, and some corvids, such as magpies and crows, can do this. Octopi get used to the person caring for them very quickly, and can really distinguish their owner from other people. There are many curious cases when an octopus recognized people whom they didn't like and swam away from the aquarium wall. It also changed the color to signify aggression and irritation, and vice versa. If the octopus liked somebody, it moved closer to the wall of the fish tank and didn't show any signs of hostility. For example, the octopus is smart enough to easily open a bottle of pills with a special baby-proofed cap. Moreover, it can break free if it is locked inside the jar with a screw cap. The octopus has enough intelligence and tentacle strength for this. Another essential marker of octopus intelligence can be observed during play. When an animal is intelligent enough, it starts to entertain itself whenever it feels safe and bored. When hunger doesn't make it look for food and predators don't pursue it, what is left to do is either sleep or kill time doing something meaningless that has no evolutionary advantage whatsoever. Sounds too close to home, doesn't it? But whatever. One time, experimenters placed an octopus in an empty aquarium, where there was only one secluded place to hide. There were no more attractions. After some time, they threw a plastic jar into the tank. It floated on the water surface in the stream created by the compressor. At first, the octopus simply ignored it, but then it began to shoot a jet of water at the jar, throwing it back out of boredom. The jar came back downstream and everything, and the whole thing was repeated dozens of times. This is such a simple entertainment that absolutely all octopuses came up with in the course of the experiment. Here, just keep in mind we're talking about a cephalopod, not about a dog or a cat, but a pile of goo, damn it! And so no one can come to some unexpected conclusions. The fact is that until now, playing behavior has been considered an exclusively social phenomenon. While playing, animals learn to communicate, dominate, and obey. But the octopus is an absolutely self-sufficient animal, with no hierarchy in social behavior. This makes scientists reconsider the established ideas about the nature of intelligence. Previously, it was believed that it was social ties and communication that at one point drove the intelligence in vertebrates to develop. But in this regard, the octopus easily went against the system. Scientists can make many unexpected discoveries when it comes to studying this extraordinary creature. What complicates things even further is that it's really difficult to observe an octopus in its natural environment, as it prefers solitude. And setting up experiments in a laboratory on collected individuals isn't that simple. Therefore, it's hard to imagine what else this strange creature is capable of. There is another fundamental oddity in all of this. The octopus has managed to go through an evolutionary path that spanned hundreds of millions of years. It survived terrible disasters that wiped out dinosaurs, ichthyosaurs, and many other animals. This raises the question of the very origin of octopi. We love to brag about how different we are from other primates, but if you look at the octopus, at how it differs from its relatives, human achievements don't seem to be that impressive after all. Our evolutionary branches with cephalopods diverged so long ago that we became completely different in terms of anatomy and physiology. The flatworm that was our last common ancestor roamed the seafloor 750 million years ago. After that, evolution took us in different directions. This happened 350 million years before the first tetrapods appeared, which gave rise to all amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals 500 million years before the dinosaurs appeared. But what if it really wasn't like that? What if the octopus really came from another planet? An international team of scientists led by Australian immunologist Edward Steele of the Centre of Astrobiology in Sri Lanka suggested that extraterrestrial retroviruses facilitated evolution on Earth. And some cephalopods even came to our planet in a ready-made form carried by comets. The hypothesis is controversial, but the article was published in the peer-reviewed journal, Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology. There's nothing unscientific in the very idea of terrestrial life coming from near or deep space. The panspermia hypothesis is not only recognized, but is actually well grounded. Organics are found anywhere, in comets, in interstellar clouds, even in the deadly Venus atmosphere. But Edward Steele's team went much further than the panspermia hypothesis. In their new paper, scientists admit that octopi could not have appeared as a result of terrestrial evolution. Researchers consider the genetic and behavioral diversity of modern cephalopods such as squid, cuttlefish, and octopi to be extremely unusual. At the same time, complex anatomical features such as a nervous system with a large brain, highly unusual chambered eyes, and lightning-fast camouflaging all appeared within a relatively short period of time. The octopus genome has 33,000 protein-coding genes, which is more than in humans. Some genetic features contrast sharply with those of other cephalopods. Steele's group believes that such genetic features couldn't have emerged through random mutations. That is, these genes are of cosmic origin. Researchers think it's plausible that frozen octopus eggs came to Earth with the comets. Of course, the theory has been mercilessly criticized and ridiculed. According to Science Alert, although this work is interesting, it's highly speculative. Editor Dennis Noble suggests that the article was published only to rekindle the debate of the origin of life and evolution, as there we find more and more evidence of organic matter on other celestial bodies. Wherever octopi actually originated, in many ways they represent an alternative course of evolution, and they had plenty of opportunities even to build their own kind of civilization. The oceans certainly provide a lot of such opportunities. Underwater volcanoes, tides, sun, waves, and wind can serve as energy sources. Oil, gas, as well as nickel, manganese, and cobalt deposits are hidden at the ocean bottom. Even more, metals can be extracted from seawater. For example, one needs to filter only 50,000 cubic meters of water to obtain a kilogram of iron. Thanks to the diversity of marine life, one can easily develop biotechnological solutions, including bioluminescent lighting based on deep-sea organisms and coral-based construction. The water electrolysis makes it possible to obtain oxygen and hydrogen. And these are fuel components that would make it possible to start jet propulsion first in water and then in the atmosphere and near space. So why did octopi choose to remain animals, albeit very intelligent ones, if they had an immense potential for developing intelligence and even building some kind of civilization over millions of years? Why are we the pinnacle of creation and not them? The reason doesn't lie in the lack of intelligence. Ironically, their strengths have become their weaknesses, for example, some of their anatomic features. So the blood of cephalopods uses hemocyanin, which doesn't contain iron like our hemoglobin, but copper. That's why it's blue. Such blood is less efficient in delivering oxygen, so octopi simply lack it for many complex tasks. Their social self-sufficiency and solitary lifestyle played a cruel joke on octopi. Living not in packs, they don't pass on experience from one generation to the next. The octopus's lifespan rarely exceeds 5 years, with an average of 1 to 3 years. Each generation has to start learning about the world from scratch. Were it not for these factors, cephalopods and their relatives could have been impressively sentient. And one day the two-legged kings of the land, that is us, would confront the civilization of the eight-legged kings of the sea. Alternatively, the two could build the greatest inter-civilization alliance ever. However, it's never too late. Most likely, we're looking for our intellectual equals in the wrong place. Our planet doesn't provide a lot of opportunities for developing a marine civilization compared to ocean planets. Even though water covers over 70% of our planet's surface, It accounts for only about 0.05% of its mass. On a planetary scale, all the depths of terrestrial oceans are a thin film on a huge stone block with a molten core. Meanwhile, we find great oceans even in our solar system, such as on Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus. And that's not to mention the distant exoplanets. Some of them are billions of years older than the Earth and the Sun. It's hard even to imagine what kind of marvelous civilization could develop with such an impressive head start. But thanks to octopi, we can at least remotely imagine what these fantastic creatures might look like.